for the first part of the video, people on YouTube may be listening to this. Go to dbafun.com or .org and join PASS, because you can get these sessions live instead of just getting them on YouTube. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Here we go. Good morning. Today is the second presentation this month for DBA Fundamentals on September the 12th. Today we have Mike West doing from DBA to data scientist. I totally misunderstood what the session was about. It's even better than what I thought. So this should be a very good session today. Okay. We have Kevin Klein today from Century One. I'm going to let him talk about a few things here, and he's our sponsor, and he's the one that provides all the prize money. So anyway, here you go, Kevin.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know that you have a very busy schedule, and so we're grateful that you've taken a bit of your time to spend it with us here today. A great lesson today from Mike, and I'm really looking forward to attending that. One quick thing I do want to mention is that Century One, we consider ourselves to be, and our customers consider ourselves to be, the kind of best of breed for monitoring and alerting products in the SQL Server space. I would be greatly honored if you are in the market for a product like that, that you would give us a try. And as active members in the community, I also want to point out some of the free offerings that we provide for the community. For example, we have a very popular blog at SQLperformance.com, hundreds of thousands of readers every month. We have a very popular product called Plan Explorer that makes query tuning super fast, super simple, and it's so free we don't even ask for an email address. And I like that. And then also we have a website that's both informative and a service. It's answers.sqlperformance.com, where you can actually post your really, really difficult to tune queries, and we'll give you free help on that. Our company has 9 Microsoft Most Valuable Professionals, Microsoft MVPs, and we're all active and ready to see what you have to offer there in terms of really tough and challenging queries, because that's always fun for us too. So with that, I hope you'll take a look at those resources, give our products a try, and hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you, Kevin. Virtual group news, there's really nothing new. We gave away one session from the last week's presentation, and to a full comp to pass. And we're going to be giving away one more, and it's going to be from everybody that attends any session starting today and through October the 3rd. And we'll draw one person from that. To win the session, you have to be a member of PASS, and you have to not be signed up for the PASS Summit already. We actually drew 5 people last time, one of which was not a member of PASS, so they were automatically disqualified. So I wouldn't let that hinder me if you really wanted to go, and it's great to go. You can still use our discount code to save $150, so definitely do that. PASS Summit, sessions coming up, shortcuts from an impatient DBA, and upgrade strategies for highly available SQL Server environments. Those are the sessions that you need to attend to be in the running for the DBA fundament, or for the PASS Summit comp that we have left. There are tons of PASS virtual groups for just about every type or topic, and for practically every major global language. So try them out and join up. That's another thing you get with PASS. You get access to a ton of free education. SQL Saturdays are like miniature PASS summits, and we have them given all around the United States, all around the world, go to SQLSaturday.com and key in your address and see the closest location for one. These are some that are coming up in the U.S. and Canada in September, and around the world. There's probably more, but this was just the current ones at the time that I made this presentation, so go to SQLSaturday.com and try it out. It's usually totally free, except you pay for your own lunch. Other than that, vendors pay for things. So great free education, great talks. You'll learn a lot. This session will be recorded and available at dbafund.org in the archive section or dbafundtube.org. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Mike West. The way I met him was I took some courses on Udemy, which is a great, now it's a pay education, but it's not expensive, and it's a great way to learn some quick things. And I really enjoyed his classes, and I just asked him. So he's really big out there. He's probably one of the biggest guys on Udemy for education. And today he's going to be talking about becoming a data scientist from DBA job. So I really think this is going to be a great session. And like I said, I misunderstood what it was about. I just thought, well, this is just much better than what I thought. I'm going to let him talk about it. I'm going to turn it over to you now, Mike.
Alrighty, sir.
Let me make you the presenter.
Okay.
And let's get this.
All right, can we see my screen?
Looks good.
All right, let's go and hit the, all right, so here we are. So, hi, let me introduce myself. My name is Mike West, and I am a SQL Server DBA. I have been for over 2 decades, and that's hard to believe. It's just been that long. I inherited some 6.5 boxes 2 decades ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope I don't have to do this for a living. And then 7.0 came out, and 7.0 was much better, and I think 7.0 was a SQL Server version that Microsoft said, okay, we're going to be serious, we're going to compete with Oracle, here we go. So I started, migrated those 6.5 boxes to 7.0, and I never looked back. However, I must say over the last few years, I have been excited about this whole data science thing. All right, so data scientists, these guys, they build models, predictive models. Now, data scientists do a lot of things that are very similar to data mining. So if you're familiar with data mining, it's kind of what data scientists do, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about in this course. Now, the data scientists, let me get the next slide here, since I created this course, I probably should have named it From DBA to Machine Learning Engineer, or From DBA to Data Engineer, because the data scientist really has, the title has become solidified as the PhD types. And I don't think many of us want to go back to school for 5 more years and learn the math behind building these algorithms. Fortunately, there are 2 other roles that we can do. One is the machine learning engineer, and one is the data engineer. Now, if you're a DBA, and I'm going to make the assumption that most everyone here is a SQL Server DBA or a SQL Server developer. And if you are in one of those roles, then from DBA to data engineer makes a lot more sense. However, I will add that the machine learning engineer for most people is more fun, because they get to build these models, and the model creation process is a lot more fun. The data engineer is really more analogous to the DBA. All right, so if you don't want to go back to school, and most of us don't, then we have 2 other roles for you, the machine learning engineer and the data engineer, and we'll talk about those coming up. So what is a machine learning engineer? A machine learning engineer they're the programmers. They're really, most of them are indistinguishable from a programmer. They are Python programmers. And to the right on the slide, I have what's called a Google Cloud Data Lab. And what that is a IDE. It's a web browser, and it's what we use to write our Python code in. Now, originally these were called Python notebooks, and now they're called Jupyter Notebooks. And in Google's cloud, we have something called Google Cloud Data Lab Notebooks. It's the same thing. It's simply a web IDE where we build our models, where we write our Python. All right, so the machine learning engineers are the model builders, right? Again, it's why it's fun. They get to create these models and learn the basics of what these models are. They get to build the models and then put them in production. So the requirement is a little more involved from the programmatic side than we DBAs are used to, but it's worth the learning curve because there's a very famous data scientist, and he is the PhD. He teaches the PhD type. He teaches at Stanford, and he is called data science, or he's called machine learning engineer, the new electricity. And while it's hard to, big data has become one of those words that's become overhyped, right? It's kind of like big data and cloud. And you might want to take that saying, what Andrew said, as a grain of salt, but don't. Because I believe him. I believe what he says, that machine learning is absolutely everywhere, and the machine learning engineer roles and the data engineer roles will probably be the two biggest roles, not within IT, in the world over the next decade. And I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of the studies right now are shaping up, and that's kind of how it's turning out, right? So what do you have to know to be a machine learning engineer? We have to know Python. All right, so we're going to have to know the basics of programming, right? And we're going to have to know Python because Python has become the gold standard in the model building world. All right, everything is done in Python. All right, statistics. You often ask, someone will say, well, I'd like to enter the role as a data engineer or as the machine learning engineer or even as a data scientist, but I'm afraid of math. Well, if you're afraid of math, then you're probably in the wrong field, right? Because even SQL Server DBA, there's a certain amount of math you have to know. However, no one's going to be writing or going to be creating these massive things of code, right? All these models are already built. They're pre-built. It's like an SSIS package, right? You drag and drop. Well, you don't drag and drop. You only drag and drop on Microsoft platform. For the other two platforms, which are AWS and Google, you actually have to write the code, which you're seeing on screen. For neural networks, it's already built. All you have to do is bring in these things called libraries, and on the screen you can see I'm importing. And what these things are, if you're not familiar, it says import pandas as PD, import NumPy. These are simply libraries in Python that we're going to bring into our web IDE in order to write some code. So the import means bring. It's just very much like if you're familiar with C#, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as an import in C#. All right, import pandas and bring in this library that I can use. Right, NumPy is a numerical Python. Bring in this library that I can use. That's all that is. Right. Neural networks. All right, neural networks have become the thing. You can't, again, log on to a website and not hear someone talk about neural networks. Neural networks have been around since the 1950s. However, to be honest, they've not been that good. They've only been that good in the last 5 years, and they've been that good because of the amount of data that we're collecting, and we're getting better at taking this data and placing it into a state where it can be modeled. All right. So for most of us, we live in the structure world. So we've got two. Let me move to the next slide here and see if I have it. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the roles. All right, and I've already mentioned this, but it probably bears mentioning again. So we've got the data engineer. Data engineers are more similar to DBAs, and they work with both structured and unstructured data. They do less model building and more data stuff, more of the infrastructure. All right. The data engineer is really the data steward of the organization's data, and that means he's a data steward of the structured data, right? What we know as SQL Server tables and Excel spreadsheets, but he's also the guy, the go-to guy when it comes to unstructured data. All right, remember, recall that we're collecting several exabytes a day around the world of data, and about 90% of that is unstructured. So whether we like it or not, as DBAs, we live in the structural world. That's about 10% of the world. We need to move out of that to the other 90%. All right, so the real-time processing are these pipelines that data engineers build, and data wrangling is the term we use to get data, the unstructured data or structured data, into a place where it can be modeled. That's data wrangling is data massage. It's just wrangle is the term that the data science community uses. Right? Data wrangling, take the data and put it into a place where it can be modeled. If you can't get your data into something that looks like a CSV, then most models can't use it. Matter of fact, about all of them. All right. So the data engineer, what's the data engineer do? Here is a slide from one of my courses on Udemy that talks about what they do. All right, so SQL is big, right? If you're a data engineer, you've got to know SQL. And I don't mean transact, I mean just the basic. And if you know transact, then you can navigate to whatever. Google has this tool, this service on their cloud called BigQuery, and it is just awesome. You can load data, structured data into it, and no matter how big it is, you can do queries against it. All right, so everywhere, even in the big data community, right, we've got tools where we can use SQL. So you have to know SQL. The next circle is you have to know big data, right? So these things, these little dots that point into the data engineer are all things you're going to have to know in order to do your job. So one might say, well, Mike, I see the cloud. Why is the cloud so big? Well, because as we learn Python and as we build these models on our laptops, yeah, that's great for learning, right? That's how we learn to build models, right? We download Python, we work with Python locally. However, none of this can be done. Real world model building can't be done on anything but big boxes. I mean, you think Photoshop is computationally intensive, you haven't seen anything yet, right? These models are just, CPU and memory hogs. So we have to get them into an environment where we can use real data against them. And the cloud, the big three if you're not familiar, are Google, AWS, and Microsoft. They are the big three. So in order to build real world models, we have to have our data in one of those clouds, right? So like I mentioned, we have two kinds of data. In the data world, we have structured and unstructured. You and I are used to dealing with structured data, right? And notice the Excel spreadsheet down there. If we can't get our data into a formatted area like a tabular data set, then we really can't take these machine learning models and point them at data, right? So you can't take a machine learning model and point it at a file system, your C drive, with 50 PDFs on it. It doesn't understand that, it doesn't get that, right? Almost everything you're going to do is going to look like an Excel spreadsheet when we're working with these models, right? I mentioned before, basically everything out there is unstructured data, so we're going to have to learn some big data, all right? So let's look at the process. And if you have any questions, I'll take any questions about this, something I may have skipped over, something to fill in the gap. Hopefully, you'll have a lot of questions at the end. So there's a famous data set here, and it's the Titanic. And up here on the left hand. Yes?
Mike, there are a couple of questions.
Fire away.
Okay. Python instead of SSAS for modeling, is that due to the size of the data?
No, it's just due to the community. The community has been, from the beginning, it's been open AI, right? So there have been two different languages that people have used in order to work with these data models. One is Python and one is R. All right, and they've both had their different things. However, Python has really come to the forefront, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one is the libraries, the amount of libraries we can use to build these models. And one of the big, also kind of the second huge reason that Python has come to the forefront is Google. Google has built a library called TensorFlow, and it's kind of the back end, right? It's kind of the engine for a lot of these models. It's a numerical processing engine, and it's written in C++, but the only interface is Python, right? So you've got to use it you've got to use Python to build your models in Google. And right now, as much as I hate to say this out loud because I'm a Microsoft guy, Google is by far the leader in the that space. They are the absolute leader in the data engineering, data science space. Microsoft is coming along. Amazon stinks. I don't know what happened to Amazon, but they've kind of lost their focus in this area. But Google's number one. Google said Python. The open AI community, which is this open artificial intelligence community, has gone with Python. So Python has kind of become the language of choice.
Okay, the other questions deal with, and that's what you're going to talk about, is education that they need to take to actually become a data scientist and stuff they can get started with. So,
yes.
So that's basically what the rest of it is right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Steve. Was there another question that was similar to that one?
That's it.
Okay.
The other questions have to deal with just please tell us how to learn how to become a data scientist, and that's what you're going to do. So
yes, again, let's use the again. I hate to pick, but the community really has spoken on what the titles are. So, data scientist means that you're going back to school for 5 years to get your PhD if you have a master's or if you have your bachelor's. I thought about it. I thought, do I really want to go back to school for 4 years? Do I really want to study the math behind this? And then the answer was no, I don't. All right, so I had two other options. I could become a data engineer, which is very similar to the DBA, or I become a machine learning engineer, the model builders. All right, and I think I'm moving towards the data engineer, but I really like machine learning engineer. So those are the two things we can do to become, to move into this space without going back to school and studying math for 4 years. There aren't many people that I know that are already in the field, like most of us here are, that want to go back and study math for 4 years. And if you do, have at it. The data scientist is a great job. You'll get your PhD, but you don't need it. The data engineer and the machine learning engineer are going to be around. They're going to be the hottest jobs, and they're going to be highly paid, I promise. So let's take a look at what I have on screen. So remember I said we've got this data set, and remember everything is a data set from a machine learning perspective. So in order to model, right, in order to create these models, we need to get them into a tabular data set. So this tabular data set on screen, you can see a little portion of it, is it's called it's a famous Titanic data set, and it is a whole bunch of information about the people that didn't survive or that survived the sinking of the Titanic. So the process is we've got this CSV, right, and that's what most everyone uses, to be quite honest. When you're learning this and you're beginning with machine learning engineer or data engineering, all your models will be built with CSVs, everyone. All right, so we've got the CSV, and the arrow moves it into my little brain there with the computer chip, and that is the model, right? And then the model does its thing, right? And then pushes out a 0 or a 1, right? Because this is what we call a binary classification model, right? Now, don't worry about that. Just the process. The process goes from CSV. We write some code, the machine learning model does its thing, and it gives us a 0 or 1. All right, 0 means you didn't make it, 1 means you did make it. The next thing we do after we run through this process and create our model, we save it, right? And then we want to call it against fresh data later. I mean, we wouldn't want to run and test these models just for fun. We're not, applied machine learning is you go to work for a company, they pay you a big salary, you build these models, and you use these models. It's like going to Amazon.com. The other day I searched for a Surface Pro, right? I did a Surface Pro search, and it said, hey, here's your Surface Pro, Mike, and here are 10 other things that I think you should buy with your Surface Pro. That's something called a recommendation engine, and that's all machine learning underneath the hood. Another one, this is kind of an aside, but let me give you an aside. Another one is Netflix. I don't know who doesn't have a Netflix account. I've got kids. I love Netflix. They use a recommendation engine that's famous. As a matter of fact, it's so famous that it was one of the things that brought data science into the limelight. 75% of all the movies watched on Netflix, 75%, I mean, that's a big number, right? Are recommended to you by a recommendation engine. That's pretty incredible, actually. All right, so off the aside, back to our model. We've got our model, right? We've got our CSV. So we need to pick out these things from our CSV that will allow us to make this prediction. So we've got A, B, C, and we've got all this columns, right? So we've got column B survived, right? Those are the passengers that survived, and those are the ones that made it, and 0 didn't. This is called supervised learning, right? The data set, the CSV file. Everything right now in the applied space, and when I say applied, I mean you go to work for someone, right? There 1% is the theoretical space, and then 99% is the applied. Everything in the applied space is based on supervised learning, and supervised learning means you have data, right? And this is where we have data, and you can see now. Let's say that I've taken my machine learning model, I've built it, and I'm passing in some things that I think the model will help me predict. And you can see I'm a 22-year-old male, right? I'm 22, my gender's male. My passenger class, which is the P class column, is 3, which means I'm in the 3rd class. And it goes into the model, and it says I'm a 0. All right. Now, if you don't know anything about the attributes, the attributes are what the machine learning engineers call columns. They all have to be different, don't they? What we have to do is find these attributes that are best that we can pass in the model to make a prediction. So if you don't know about the sinking of the Titanic, if you were a male, there's a good chance you didn't make it. All right. If you were a female, there's a good chance you made it. All right. So that's kind of the Titanic. There we go. Once we have our model saved and we put in the female, yeah, I spelled female wrong, but it gave us a 1. All right, so that's kind of the flow of what a machine learning model. Now I know I'm giving a lot of information to you in a very short time, right? Because I don't have a long time and there's a lot here. But I will give you, I'll give Stephen after this a link to a free course, and actually you'll have 2 free ones, and you'll be able to kind of see for yourself through these courses if it's something that's for you. Now, the learning curve is there. Even if you're a SQL Server DBA, I thought, well, I'm a SQL Server DBA. I've been doing this for 20 years. This ought to be a pretty easy jump for me. Well, no, it's not really, because there's just so much to learn, right? It's like being like a Paul Randall, right? The amount of information that man's had on SQL Server is voluminous, right? So to get to a state where you're going to be great at something, it's just going to take a long time. And this is no different, right? However, the career path for data engineers and machine learning engineers, again, stay away from the data scientists because most of us do not want to get our PhDs. The machine learning engineers, and it's going to be, I promise you, off the charts. All right, I think that's my last slide. It is. So do we have any questions specific to anything that I've said or something I might have skipped over or something you're interested in? I think we have time. So just go ahead and fire away.
Well, we'll get the old questions while people are submitting new ones. Okay. One person wanted to know if Python ever integrated with SQL Server, and if so, which version?
Not really. So you can use Python, right, to write calls to a SQL Server database. However, it's not so easy. Google on their platform does have a way, and so does Microsoft, I might add, a way to integrate Python with this tool I was mentioning earlier called BigQuery. And you can do it inside of Microsoft's platform, right? Their platform is called Azure Machine Learning, right? It's an Azure Machine Learning engine. And it's more of a graphical SSIS approach way to building these models. And it's by far the best out there. However, Microsoft simply has a hard time right now getting their grip on the on the space because so much of it is OpenAI, right? So much of it is Python. So much of it is this OpenAI that Microsoft is kind of find their niche. But the Azure Machine Learning, this engine that you can use, it looks like an SSIS. I wish I would have a picture for you, but I have a whole course on it. It's awesome. It really looks like a SSIS package builder for cloud learning models, for machine learning models, I mean. It's wonderful.
Okay, one person wanted to know, how does Hadoop, Spark, DW, and NoSQL fit into this, into data engineer or machine learning space?
Yeah, so for both of these, what's interesting is no matter what direction you want to go. The machine learning engineer or the data engineer, a lot of your time is going to be massaging data, right? It's going to be doing this, what they call data wrangling, and data wrangling is massaging the data in some form or another. And remember, 90% of all the data out there is not structured. So you're going to be the person, right, who needs to know enough Hadoop to put it in a structure so you can give it to the machine learning engineers, or so you yourself, right, can build a model, right? So you can't just take Hadoop, you can't create a Hadoop job, you can't create a Spark job, and then feed it directly to a machine learning engine. Machine learning say, I don't know what all that means. If the machine learning engine say, if it's not in a, no matter whether it's a neural model or a non-neural model, if it's not in a format that it can understand, and that format is a tabular data structure, it just says, no thanks. So you're going to be that guy that takes that data, right, massages it, creates the job, and puts it into a space where it can be formatted to look like a tabular data set for building these models. So if you hate, and I got to be quite honest, I'm not a big data fan, the Hive and all that stuff. However, it's part of the job, right? Once you learn Python, the basics of Python, PySpark is a little easier to digest and a little easier to learn, and you might want to go that direction to learn big data. But again, you're going to be that guy building those models, or at least working with programmers who are Hadoop specialists, right, and Spark specialists that are building those models to massage that data into a tabular data format, right, where it can be built. So yeah, that's just one of those things where we're going to have to know. But sorry, Steve, I just want to, before you, it's all in, if it's not into a tabular data set, 99% of the machine learning models can do nothing with it.
Okay. Somebody mentioned here that it's very possible that SQL Server 2017 will be integrated with Python Anaconda.
Yeah, that would be, if that's true, that would be super sweet, right? Because the Anaconda is Anaconda Analytics, or the company is Continuum Analytics, and they have this installed for Python. That's really straightforward. So if we can build Python into SQL Server, which would be really smart on Microsoft's part, then it's going to be a lot easier to write your Python directly towards this tabular data sets, right, which is what a SQL Server table is, to get our information out. Again, the hard part for us, for DBAs and even for developers, is going to be taking the unstructured data, right? Again, most models, all the models I built here at the corporation I work for right now, everything comes from a SQL Server database, right? Everything comes from a Postgres database. I can make a CSV out of just about any database in a second, and then I can build a model on it. I've not had to wade into the big data space, but I know if I want to move on and I want some of the salaries that they're throwing around, I'm going to have to. So we're going to have to learn big data.
Okay, and this, I think this, what you're saying is most models can use CSV. They thought they misunderstood you and thought that you said that they couldn't. So apparently
no.
that's...
Yeah, that's it. Just sorry about that. Yes, it's just the opposite. Everything, all the models you're going to build, all the models, whether they're neural networks, right, or whether they're non-neural networks, we've got these two classes of models, all function on really nice, clean CSVs. And you can see in the left-hand corner on my screen right now, look how clean the CSV is. You know, this doesn't look like a SQL Server table that you and I are used to. I mean, everything's filled in. All the classes have, relatively, I mean, everything looks clean, right? Unfortunately, machine learning models want this clean data. So let's say in the age we only had 50 people in all the data set that had the age. Well, we would have to do something about that because the machine learning model would say, sorry, I need the age, or I'm not going to work, I'm not going to be a successful model, so you need to take care of that. And again, that's part of your role as a data engineer.
Okay, this person wants to know what your thoughts are on the R language versus Python.
Nothing wrong with R. R is a great visualization language. However, it just and at the beginning when I first kind of delved into this, I thought, which is going to be Python or R. I mean, I didn't know anything. I couldn't tell you what Python was other than a snake. Now the community has spoken, right? It is Python. It is Python for a lot of reasons. R is a great language, and you notice that even the direction of the big, right, some of the big players. Microsoft first integrated R into SQL Server and into the machine learning, their environment, right? And then they had to play catch up because while R was there, most of the community said it's Python. So they had to, more recently, they had to use Python. And a lot of companies are doing that. They're trying to decide whether it's going to be R or Python. And I can tell you right now, it's Python. I mean, all you have to do is do a career builder search, R or Python, and your answer will be cemented. The OpenAI community has spoken. If you want to build machine learning models, you absolutely must know Python. Now, the good news is, if we go back to that slide, let me see if I can go back. Python is actually there's Python. It's not like C#. I mean, I've written some C. I've built some stuff in C. C sucks. It really does. It's really hard to learn. Even C# is kind of hard to learn. This is a much easier language to learn, and that's also one of the benefits of the language, right? You import some things. You can see I'm just creating a series, which is nothing more than a data set. So you're going to find, even if you're fearful of programming, that machine learning with Python is a ton easier than anything that you've ever worked with.
Okay, somebody just put the link up and I'll broadcast it out to everybody, that our SQL integrated R language was recently announced. Python will also be integrated in 2017. So let me just send that out to everybody.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I mean, that's great news. I don't follow Microsoft right now as much because they've created their own, right? Each vendor, the big three, create their own path of what they want you to do to be their data engineers and their machine learning engineers. And Microsoft is a little behind right now. It's funny that they're behind on this because they were the first to have this SSIS machine learning, Azure machine learning interface for us to build models, but they're behind in terms of the certifications, right? So right now there is only one certification for data scientists and machine learning engineers on the market, period. Only one that, I mean, there might be others, right? Like the IBM has the big data. No one takes that seriously. There is one right now in the market that's taken seriously, and that is the Google certified data engineer. Microsoft is in the process right now. As part of the MCSE, you're going to have an MCSE, and I forget what the name of the program is going to be. MCSE Data Science or MCSE Data Engineer, something like that, where you're going to learn how to use their tools in order to be a data engineer. And their 2 courses for that are coming out soon, and I will jump on that as soon as their courses have been solidified and are out. And because Microsoft is for data, for everything Microsoft does, it's visually so much more appealing. Google's engineering, I love Google platform, but I mean it's going back to the dark ages. Everything to me looks like a DOS prompt. Microsoft is so much more user-friendly.
Okay. This person said R was included with SQL 2016. Would you consider R platform more for data scientist or a data engineer?
Certainly. Again, it's funny that R does seem to be in the in institutions, right? So R is still more prevalent. Let's say you right now want to go back and get your master's in data science, right? There are very few programs right now, and I mean, it's the big ones, the Berkeley and some other ones, right? That use Python. Everything else is R. And I've communicated with these people, and I even talked to Andrew Nye, who's this world famous data scientist, and he is in education, and he thinks also that that's kind of doing a disservice to people who are currently taking this mass tutorial programs, that your focus really should be on Python and not R. So there's nothing wrong with R. If you want to use R, that's fine. Use R. It's just kind of like, to me, it's the language has been, the community has spoken, and it's Python, and that's pretty much the end of. Now, it's not the end of R, and organizations and there are going to be communities, especially the biospace, that love R, and it's going to be around. However, for most of what you and I want to do, for most of when we want to go somewhere, we want to go to, I don't know, some company down the road and build neural networks. If you go on Indeed.com and do a search, you'll see what they're looking for. And one of the things they're looking for it's Python. And it's Python libraries, data wrangling, data massage, SQL. You'll see if you just go ahead and do a search.
Okay, a majority of the rest of the questions, and we'll get into them specifically, but I want to be sure that this gets covered because this is pretty what everybody wants. They want, one person brought up the thing that everybody's interested in is what are some of the salaries that are being thrown around, and maybe you can just give people a general range as a possibility. And if you know, since you know this area a little bit better than everybody else, and everything is centered around, or most of the questions is, what are your best recommendations on learning Python and whatever it takes to go into this? And obviously it's the certifications you're talking about, but if you have anything, any resources to talk about, I think that's what most people are interested in.
Sorry, Steve, what was the first part of that question?
First part of the question was just what are some of the salary ranges that are being
Yes,
thrown
absolutely. Big. And for entry level, the entry level Python programmer that knows the basics of machine modeling and machine building, that has SQL, right? If you have SQL, you're really ahead of the game. If you can come in and massage SQL, and you have 1 or 2 years experience, and maybe you have a little big data, or some big data, we're looking anywhere between 80 to 120. That's what many people consider the junior level role. As you move up from there, and as you get even just a little bit better, the salaries get much bigger. So I don't. I've had 2 different opportunities to leave my current position and go somewhere else. And one of those was an Azure machine learning architect that worked on big data in New York. Again, I simply didn't have the skill set. Even though I had read books and created courses, I had to be honest with them and say, listen, I can't do the job. I would have to come up here and I would struggle. I would embarrass myself, which is not what you want, and it would take me a long time to do the job. But that salary was $150 an hour. So that's not bad. So $150 an hour, we're looking at $300 a year base. And there was going to be a lot of overtime, so we're talking a lot of coin. Someone else recently, because I've created a whole series on Google machine learning and the Google platform, someone reached out to me and said, hey, we need a Google machine learning engineer. Actually, we need a data engineer. Can you come and build some pipelines? And again, I had to turn it down because I simply couldn't, and I'm not going to go somewhere and embarrass myself, and not going to be, because I'm so used to being SQL Server, to being someone that can make immediate impact, and I wouldn't want to go somewhere that I couldn't make an immediate impact, and I would just have to fumble around. All right, so the learning curve is it's kind of big, but their base salary, again, this was remote, which is crazy. Their base salary was in the 320 range. So the salaries are, if you're again, we're right at the beginning of this, right? So I'm sure as it moves on, the salaries will come down a little bit. Right, so if you're one of the first pioneers, and so remember the SAP guys, I remember when I first started Georgia Pacific, and I controlled the database that did all the salaries for contractors, and we didn't have anyone that could do SAP basis at the time. We were paying this guy from Australia $550 an hour to do SAP basis stuff, and that kind of blows my mind. Today it still blows my mind that we'd pay anyone that. But 100 to 150 right now for any of these guys, these machine learning engineers, is kind of the range. Where can you learn? The great part about Python is the community is so big, you can learn Python kind of right now on your own. right? If you just type into Google, teach me Python, I want to learn Python, Python basics, you can go and find places where you can go to do Python courses. I have 2 courses. I'm going to give you 2 of them for free. One is going to be on the top 5 libraries within Python. You can see I've got, and on our screen now, I've got import pandas, NumPy. These are some libraries, and I'm going to show you how they're used and how you bring them in, what a machine learning model looks like, and what the process is, and it's free. And then you can kind of offshoot from that. If you want to be a Google certified data engineer, I have a whole course series on Udemy for that. There aren't a lot of resources out there. There is one from Google where they teach you the whole series, and it's horrific. That's all I can tell you. Nothing from Microsoft yet in terms of what I call the data science fork. There's nothing out there. There is, what's her name? Her name is, she's been in machine learning for Microsoft a long time. I love her, Olivia Klaus. She's got an accent, and she does a lot of demos right now on machine learning specific to Microsoft. So you could type in, I think it is Olivia Klaus, and you can see some of her stuff, right, to get a feel. Again, a lot of it's going to be like what happened when we became SQL Server DBAs, right? There wasn't a whole lot out when 7.0 came out. You kind of picked a book out, you kind of went into a blog and read, who was at a mechanic and who is active and all that stuff. So you kind of do learn on your own. There is nothing that I would recommend other than some mass tutorial programs, which again, at Berkeley's, I wouldn't even recommend, as prestigious as Berkeley is, they're still using R in their courses. And I said, listen, no one's going to take your mass tutorial program if you're going to continue to use R, when Python is the kind of the choice now for model building. And they're like, well, whatever. So I would not recommend any mass tutorial programs. I would do it on your own, and certainly take some of my free courses. Udemy is hard to beat for some of the prices for what you can get. I mean, you can get, my students can get my entire package, right? If they're a student and they take one course and they pay like $20 for it, they can get $10 for the rest of the courses. So you can get the whole course program for $150 or even less than $100. That's kind of hard to beat. I will also be attacking some of the Microsoft things when they come out, but they've not solidified their it's going to be in the MCSE program, right, under the MCSE umbrella, and there's going to be a data science program. So, or not data science, but in my opinion, more, I think Microsoft may even use the data science term, but that they shouldn't. More for machine learning engineers and for data engineers, and I think that's coming out in the next 6 months.
Okay, somebody just posted, and this is something pretty good, and I'll just send it out to everybody. A place where they have a free ebook every day, and the book for them in the area of machine learning, Python, etc. It's some resources. I'll send that out to everybody. Thank you. And let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here's one. This person said they've attended several machine learning talks and know it's powerful, but all have used the Titanic data set as an example when trying to get a sign-off within an organization. It's hard to show the value with this example. Do you know of other example use cases, especially in the professional services area?
No, what you're going to have to do is that when you understand the basics of it, companies aren't going to, there are other data sets, right? There are some key data sets. There's the Titanic data set. There's one called the Iris data set where we feed in pictures into what are called convolutional neural networks. And we feed these pictures in, the pictures get turned to numbers, and we build the model off of that. All right. There's these others where we take words, right, where you take, say, maybe a book on Shakespeare, and you create a model called a bag of words. Just as an aside here, keep in mind everything, right? These neural networks and these models are mathematical models. So everything we do, whether we push a picture in or a word in, or doesn't matter, it gets numberized, right? It gets turned into a number. That's just something to keep, aware of, something to be aware of as you move forward. Now, in terms of data set, companies are going to want to see, they're smart enough now, right, where enough people have applied and they're like, hey, look, here's my notebooks, and here's my machine learning engineer notebook, and here I did the Titanic data set. They're going to say, yeah, okay, that's great. show me what you did at your last organization. So you're going to have to take some data, and you're going to have to do the full process, right? You're going to have to scrub some company data. You may have to fake it because you obviously can't show company data to another company, so you're going to have to scrub it a little bit. You're going to have to build models on it, and you're going to have to be able to talk your way through the process in order to get either a machine learning engineer job or a data engineering job, right? And certainly for some of these higher, what I call higher ticket consultants, which is all what we'd like to do, right? I mean, I don't know anyone that doesn't want to make, a very good salary for what they do. But you're going to have to build your own models, right, off of data. Like one thing I did is I took a data set. We were all aware of the data set from the Microsoft learning models. Someone help me out. What's the name of Stephen? What's the name of we use it to learn Microsoft. The databases Microsoft goes out to everyone. They're called. What are they called? Anyway, so what I did was they have a data warehouse, and then they have an OLTP version, and then they have whatever.
AdventureWorks.
That's it. Thank you so much.
I don't know why something like that. I mean, I've only saw that 20,000 times. So.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, so what I did was I took the AdventureWorks has a DW data warehouse, right? So it has a data set where it has a whole bunch of information that's really been cleansed for me. So I took that and I walked this company that wanted me to work for Google through how to build a machine learning how to build a machine learning model against this fake data that they had never seen, right? Well, that's what they want to see. Can you take data? Can you cleanse the data? Can you put it into a format where it can be modeled, which is really the hard part. That's going to be 80% of your job. And then can you pick the right model? Right, there are different models for different occasions, right? So you want to predict the housing prices in your area, right? Well, that's a special kind of model, right? That's a linear regression model. So you do have to know, okay, I'm going to build a linear regression model. Here's the data. So you have to walk your way through the process. And again, that's a learning curve. But I've been studying this now for 8 months, and I could probably talk myself into a job. So it's not that big of a learning curve, right? 8 months isn't a long time. All right, 8 months to a year, if you had to study 8 months to a year to learn something in order to cement your, a career, is probably not that long time for most people.
Okay, this person wants to know, even though you said they're kind of falling way behind the curve, any certifications with Amazon Web Services?
No.
That you would recommend?
No.
Okay.
It's funny, they don't have any. They don't have any on the board. They have, and as a matter of fact, their machine learning model tool is a GUI. It's this thing where it's kind of like a wizard where you walk through and you pick stuff out. There is this move, right, in all three of the cloud spaces to what's called democratize machine learning. What that means is dumb it down for the masses. Well, unfortunately, you can only dumb down this stuff so far, right? And what Amazon has done was try to do this. They've tried to take this dumbed down approach. It really blows my mind because AWS right now is 60 or 70% of the market. They're blowing, in terms of numbers, they're blowing Google out of the water, and they're blowing Azure completely out of the water. I mean, they're the leader. They missed this. I can't tell you how. I mean, it's just by such a margin. It's bewildering how they can miss it this much. But they don't have anything. They have no certifications. They have no real tools for building machine learning models on AWS. Now, what you can do, what they do has is you can spin up an EC2 instance, and we can build our models with Python on the EC2 instance. But I mean, I can do that anywhere now.
Okay, here is one question. Somebody missed the name of the lady at Microsoft who had done a lot of machine learning, and they were trying to get the last name or the full name again.
Yes, her name is Olivia Klaus, and it's Klause. I'm almost sure that's her last name. But if you just Google right now, Olivia Klaus, and then you put, I think if you just put Olivia Klaus machine learning. If you just Google that, she should come up. She should be one of the first ones. Yeah. Again, she's she's Microsoft focused, right? All she does is Microsoft machine learning.
Yeah, somebody put her website. Yes, they Googled it like you. It's
Okay.
and so I sent that out to everybody.
Yeah, she's got some really good basic stuff.
Okay. This is a question I've never heard. Have you competed in any www.kaggle.coms and won? So I don't really understand that. Maybe you understand that from the data science side.
Hold on, as you can see that I'm typing to someone else. Sorry about that, a coworker. No. No, I started to. I built some models. They had one that I wanted to do that was a convolutional neural network. However, I don't think people say that companies use that as entrance. If you did well, the problem is you're not going to do well. You're competing against You're competing against the guys that wrote Watson, right? So you're not going to win. Not even that, you're not even going to place. So why would I enter a contest where, as a beginner, people say, well, it's a great learning curve. I'm like, well, it's a great learning tool. Well, it isn't if you get frustrated and you're competing against some of the top guys in the field. It's like me going to a thing where I've got to sit around with, the likes of Kimberly Tripp and other people and compete in a SQL contest. Well, I mean, I'm going to get slaughtered. I'm not going to learn a whole lot other than I really don't know a lot about SQL. So I would not focus on that, but if you want to, it's there. Kaggle's great for learning, but you're going to learn a lot more elsewhere.
Okay. This person wants to know, since AWS is out of it, would you recommend Google versus Azure certifications? And I'm sure since we're a lot in the Microsoft platform, we probably are interested in Azure also, and we're rooting for them. But what, if you really came down to it, what would you do?
Right now, it's hard to compete against Google. Right? They wrote what's the engine for neural networks right now. It's called TensorFlow. They've written the engine. They have the largest data science team in the world. They have the largest machine learning network in the world. They have the largest data engineering team in the world. No one's even close. They have the consultants that kind of built the neural network. If I wanted to be a machine learning or a data engineer specifically, because that's the certification they have, if I were going to be a data engineer right now, I would be a data engineer on Google's platform. However, with that being said, Azure is not out of the game because of their user-friendly environment and because the space is there's such a need, right? That once they get their certifications in place and once you understand their environment, the jobs are going to be there too, I promise, right? Because so many people aren't going to leave their comfort of their SQL servers, right? This company I'm working for wasn't going to, they didn't want to hear about anything other than SQL Server. Well, this is what we've built the decade we've built our application on. I don't care what you have to do. If you can't model it with the SQL Server tables and data that we have, then we're not interested. So that mindset is still there. So there's going to be a ton of work. And again, the salaries are still going to be there for, like I said, the Azure machine learning engineer position that they wanted me to fill was, I mean, we're talking 100 to 150 an hour. That's a lot of coin anywhere in the world.
Okay. You've besides in this video, this person wants to know if there's good learning paths for machine or data engineers posted somewhere.
Paths. Well, the path is that there are certain things that you're going to have to know. Like Python is one of those things. So the path is you'd have to know Python. In order to get a data engineering job, you're going to have to know either one of the cloud vendors, right? And the cloud vendors kind of have their own nuancey stuff too, right? Like I said, I have a whole series on Udemy for people that are interested in the silo where they want to be data engineers on the Google Cloud Platform, right? There are 5 courses or 6 courses now where you can study that, but it's very specific to Google, right? So is there anything out there like what we have in terms of SQL Server, where you can go and get a book, or you can follow the Microsoft curriculum to become a machine learning engineer and data engineer. No, the field is still so new that that really hasn't happened.
Okay, this person says that they have experience doing data analysis, cleaning and modeling, and SAS. How well do those SAS skills transfer over to Python?
Well, great, because if you have any skills with data, massaging data, what they call wrangling, then you're in good shape, because so much of what you're going to be doing before you build your model is massaging data. And that's kind of where the DBA and the SQL Server developer are going to be able to fill this niche, right? Because that's something that they do. They do that on a daily basis, whether they're writing code or creating SSIS packages. They know data, and they know how to massage data. So massaging data, regardless of whether you're a data scientist, a machine learning engineer, a data engineer, regardless of either one of those careers, right, your time is going to be spent, about 80% of it, getting the data into a form where it can be modeled. So anything where you have a background in data massage and that you know data, you're in good shape. You're in a great position.
Okay, now this is sort of a segue for you, I guess. What's the name of your Udemy series of classes, and how do you get access to the free courses?
Can I give them to you, Steve, and we put them like we did last time in the
newsletter? Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll send that out. And
if you want to take I'm sorry, Steve. If you want to take a look and you just want to take a look first before you get the free, I would wait for Steve to give us the free links, right? But if you want to take a look, just go to udemy.com and type in Mike West Google, and then you should be able to see them. But I wouldn't buy them right now, right? I mean, that sounds crazy. Well, why wouldn't you? You want to promote yourself? Well, yeah, I do want to promote it, but I also don't want you to get frustrated. I want you to realize that it's like anything, right? You're going to be inundated with information. So take some of these free courses I'm going to give you and start to build a base before you dive into learning some of the higher, more the minutia of it, so to speak.
Okay, this person wants to know if you've ever used Cloudera, and if so, what are your thoughts on it?
Cloudera is, fantastic product, but they're kind of like Microsoft, right? They're a niche. The guy that started and works with Cloudera is a guy that wrote Hadoop. So great company. They're not in the game in terms of the big players, right? The big players still remain are the big cloud vendors. Now, could you go get, I think Cloudera may even have a certification. Could you go get Cloudera certified? Yeah, but you're going to do it on just their platform. It's kind of like being SaaS, right? Being SaaS certified. All right, well, I want to be SaaS certified. Well, that's great. And you're going to know SaaS, but a lot of the Python community looks down on that because you're just doing it for SaaS, and it's kind of like this wizard. And the Python programmers will tell you, data machine engineers and machine learning engineers that are real guys, we don't use wizards. So yeah, can you do that? Will you be able to find jobs? Absolutely. Is it going to be as like, finding a SQL Server DBA job today? If you're really good, you can throw a dart and have your resume out there one day, get a job the next day? No, it's not going to be like that.
Okay, I know that there's a lot of free resources, but this person wants to know, what are your recommendations for learning Python as far as books or courses?
Again, paid for, there's a series of courses on Coursera.org, and I think they may be free. And if not, I'm not sure what the paid for version is, on Python, which is fantastic. Coursera, Udemy, I think there's a guy, and all he does is teaches a Python programming course. And if you look for a coupon, right, I think you can probably get the course for $15. And you want to look at the reviews on Udemy courses to make sure you're getting the base knowledge. But there are a lot. If you just learn the basics. If you go install Python just to get the idea, and if you go, oh, Python's got 2 versions, now which one do I install? Well, you've got to know that. So My free courses are going to tell you that. Really, I'm going to walk you through installing Python. I'm going to walk you through the basics of what you're seeing on screen. What import pandas? What is pandas? Pandas is a data massaging library. Well, how do we use it? What's the PD? The PD is no more than an alias. I walk through every facet of it, and that's really a good way to start. And then you can kind of branch off from there once you say, oh, okay, this is what Python does. This is how I build a model. Now I can Google this. I can go take the Coursera courses. Once I know and I have a solid base, I can go back and take the courses for the machine learning engineer for Google's cloud platform, or next year I certainly will have the ones done for the Microsoft platform.
Okay, I think that's pretty well most of the questions, if not all. I think people are just saying thank you now. One other question. Do you like the Python courses on the Lynda platform?
Yes, not bad at all. Lynda's not bad at all. There are two who, yeah, they're okay. I like one of the ladies on lynda.com. I forget her name. She's a softie. She's known within the SQL Server community. Again, her name's not coming to me. She's not a Kendra Little, but her courses are interesting enough.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate it. Very informative talk, and we'll be sending out with if you're a member of PASS, you'll be getting our email, and we'll be sending out the links to the free courses that Mike is going to give us. Anyway, we really appreciate it, Mike. This is very informative. Everybody's interested in their future career and making money, because we're all thinking about, my gosh, this stuff is going to be obsolete in 10 years. Which way do I go? Because it's nice to have a presentation like this every once in a while to get an idea of where things are going.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me again.
Okay, and we'll have to do it again in the future.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. Remember, guys, next week we'll have our last session of September. Andy Mellon with secrets from a impatient DBA. So anyway, that it should be a great course or a great session. Sign up for it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mike. I'll just send me those links, and
yes,
I'll
sir.
get them as soon as I get the. What I'll do is get the recording uploaded, and we'll send the presentation out. I'm going to be doing that migration tomorrow, so I'll be dealing with that. I may not get it until Thursday, so hopefully I'll be just kind of cleaning up things and have time to do that. But if you get that to me, we'll do it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks again, Steve.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.